Our referee is Stuart Berry of South Africa. The kickoff from Nathan Hirayama. Canada all in reds, the navy blue kits of the United States, and a rivalry which grows almost with every game. And you might say that this is an exhibition, Brian, but there's an awful lot riding on this game, particularly, I think, for the Canadians.
Yeah, you don't call these games friendlies. Whether it's soccer or rugby, you don't call them friendlies. This is going to be a very hotly contested game, very physical, and obviously the Americans have had their way with the Canadians the last couple times out, and the Canadian boys, their psyche's a bit fragile right now. They really need a W today.
Well, we spoke to the Canadian coach just last evening, Kieran Crowley, looking ahead to this game, and he really put the emphasis, didn't he, on the fact that almost regardless of the performance, he just wants his boys to get a win to boost their confidence.
Yeah, we heard that through the PNC with defeats, that they were working on things and doing well. But yes, a W is a must today for the red shirts.
Away by Gordon McCrory, the scrum half, trying to get it wide on that far side. First meaningful attack inside the US 22.
And I mentioned off the top when we had the lineups, John Moonlight and Nanyak Dal are both in the lineup. That's to spread the ball around the field with Enterprise. This Canadian backline did a lot of damage against the Samoans with Nate Hirayama at number 10, and they're going to try and do the same today, and they're off and running. They'll take this penalty in the corner, and they are in a primo attacking position right off the trot.
Hirayama straight into touch, so line out on or about the US 5-meter line. So a prime chance for the Canadians to get into their stride early if they can manage some strong and some accurate ball handling here. Up goes Tyler Hodson, towering above his opponents.
Please now, please.
The referee's whistle is gone.
Yeah, it's early in the game, but he's speaking to the Americans about killing the ball. Canada was driving ahead, and they've elected to go for points. And Gordon McCrory will handle the kicking duties today. And some big news post-Canada-US game in Burnaby is James Pritchard was not selected in the final 35 for the Rugby World Cup. And yesterday he announced his retirement. What a splendid servant of rugby he has been for Canada. Class personified on and off the field. I know all the boys were tweeting about it. They will miss him, but that's the nature of this game. 36 years old, he's a specimen, but he didn't fit into their plans. And good on you, James Pritchard. You've been great for Canadian rugby.
More than 600 points in a 12-year international span for Canada, but the baton has now been passed. And Gordon McCrory, the Canadian scrum half, with the chance, with the penalty, just outside the American 22 to give Canada that start that they are looking for. There's a hush around the crowd. They don't want to put him off. Here is McCrory. It's up. Is it good? It is. Canada with the early lead against the USA. McCrory with the penalty.
And that will calm the nerves a bit. The Canadians look organized, they look confident. And as I was touching on, this back line really did some damage against the Samoans. Connor Traynor, Phil McKenzie, Nate Hirayama. I think Canada's here to run today, and I think this crowd's going to love it.
AJ McGinty gets us underway from halfway for the Americans. Canada on their own 22. They'll run it wide. And McKenzie can't keep it from going into touch, and poor handling in a dangerous position for the Canadians.
Well, absolutely, but it does show the enterprise they want to use inside their 22-meter. They did have the forward set up, It was a fake run in the A-gap. They spread the ball quickly. They did have a little bit of space. The fast hands didn't work from Dalla to McKenzie, and it's a U.S. throw-in in a very dangerous position here for the Canadians.
Zach Fenolio with the throw, the lineup.
If you're going to come in late, it's going to be on a mark.
Hearing the voice of the South African referee, Stuart Berry. Now Fenolio, short.
The referee has indicated the the American lineup was not thrown in straight. The put in to the first scrummage of the game will be to Canada, and this is a big point in the game. The Canadian scrum throughout the PNC was inconsistent. It did show flashes in the Samoa game of getting back in business, but the Tongan game, it was really up and down. This is a must moving forward in September. The scrum has to be tight and a great platform.
Let's talk about these two packs, because clearly the Canadians are waiting on some big hitters coming back, but how do these two packs match up for you?
We're going to find out pretty soon. Aaron Carpenter, who was hooking in the PNC, is now playing number 8. There has been some changes, as you pointed out, Nigel. The big man, some of the big men aren't available yet. Jeb Sinclair is still rehabbing injury. Jason Marshall. And the Canadians do need the bigger men. They have a very quick pack, but the question will be, can they scrummage?
McCrory with the put in for Canada. Can they get clean ball here? They've turned it over, and the Americans, again, in a threatening position, looking to get themselves back in this game very quickly. Greg Peterson, the Australian, born forward. Along the line it goes to McGinty, farther wide to Palamo. This is Drew Duratalo. Disciplined defending for the moment from the Canadians. They've spread it wide for Wiles, the fullback. Americans will come back, will they? Just trying to make some hard yards. Referee allows it to go and then blows his whistle.
Yeah, that Canadian scrum was not in good form. The one fella I forgot to mention was Jamie Cudmore. He will be ready for the Glasgow game next week, and he's a big presence in the second row. But that first Canadian scrum, it was screwed, and the ball was spilled, and the Americans were off and running. They really want to tighten this up with Hubert Bidens, Ray Barkwell, and Doug Wooldridge in the front row. The Canadians looked like they tried to get really low on that first scrum, but the Americans turned them and made a schmozzle of it, and the Canadians could not present their own ball, and that's something they have to nip in the bud right now.
Second scrum inside the Canadian 22, as the Americans are pressing. Referee not happy with the scrum formation, so we'll have them do it all again. There we go. They hold it up this time. This time they do come away with the ball, spreading it wide again. Now there's some room. McKenzie, the kick ahead. Stays in play, fielded by Chris Wiles, who calls for the mark.
Nice hands by the Canadians, running from their own end. That scrummage was better. And the Americans are going to run from inside their 22. No, they elect to clear it. You mentioned a few moments ago, Nigel, we had a nice conversation yesterday with Kieran Crowley.
Yeah.
And one thing he did mention was today he and his staff will be looking. There are certain positions that are still up for grabs, and some players are trying to knock the door down today. So I think mostly in the forwards, Kieran Crowley, Neil Barnes, Leo Crowley, they still have some decisions to make.
Ray Barkwell, the short line out. Just 4 per team. They go again. Spreading it for Hirayama. Along the line it goes. Carpenter. That they come again for Hirayama on that far side. Hirayama on the charge for the Canadians. on the US 22. Looking to recycle it. Referee in, keeping a sharp eye. Blows his whistle, and the US get a penalty.
Yeah, that was an unforced error by Canada. They elected to run the quick line out. They had things going their way. They were driving. They were inside the 22, and the ball was spilled in the tackle. The type of mistakes that drive a coach crazy. Everything was going positively, and they turned the ball over. And now the U.S. will elect to kick the touch, and the Canadians have to back up.
McGinty finds touch from inside his own 22, and it's noticeable in these early minutes, and you don't know whether it's nerves or quite what it is, but there have been, I'm sure, one too many errors from Canada so far that Kieran Crowley will be, cringing on the bench there.
Well, and I think that was the story of the PNC. Canada played some attractive rugby at times, but overall, there were too many mistakes, and they're going to have to cut down on those mistakes today and next week.
Palamo through. And they turned it over. Waiting for Clevens. Now, being pushed back. Taylor Paris at the base of that. American penalty. Leaving their feet at the breakdown.
Once again, an unforced error, and obviously a very makeable kick. And the Canadians have to minimize their mistakes. Wiles and McGinty having a conversation. Wiles just came up as the skipper, actually, to decide they're going to go for points, but it will be McGinty kicking. Wiles is a pretty handy sharpshooter himself. And nice conversation with him before the game. He's looking forward to the Rugby World Cup, and he likes the American chances in their pool.
Wiles with more than 200 points, but defers to the newcomer, A.J. McGinty, of Irish descent, recently available to the United States after completing his residency, and has exploded onto the American scene with plenty of points throughout the PNC. So McGinty to tie it up from just outside the Canadian 22. Taking his time with his prep. Now he's ready, McGinty. And he's pushed it. Pushed it 4 or 5 feet wide of that upright. And that's not the way he dreamed about it last night.
Now when the Canadians dodge a bullet and they want to clear this, Nathan Hirayama has several options here. Canada has been electing both on kickoffs and 22 meters sometimes to kick the ball deep and try and press the opponent to kick it back to them. Hirayama was darting the whole game against the Samoans. You can really tell he has terrific sevens pedigree.
Can they pick it up? Was there a knock on there? Into American territory. Wiles across and off quickly. They couldn't find a way through that wall of red. Americans trying to gain these hard yards, trying to get up to halfway, but the referee's whistle brings it all to a halt again.
And he's calling Aaron Carpenter over. He doesn't like the way the Canadians did not roll away. They were sealing the ball. We saw this against Tonga when Liam Underwood was given a yellow card, whether it was given to him justly or not. But the referees are very big on this. When a team is going to win the ball, the opposition have to get out of the way. And they're having a discussion now. He's telling Aaron Carpenter to tell his boys to get away from the ball when it's lost.
Ray Barkwell also part of that conversation with the referee. Lecture over. And McGinty 10 yards short of halfway. Kicks for touch. And the Americans back inside Canadian territory. Just that one penalty goal separating these two teams. Kicked by Gordon McCrory in the early minutes. Up high was Greg Peterson for the Americans. Wiles spills it. Picked up quickly by Traynor.
And it looks like Ray Barkwell's down. He took a pretty big knock in the Samoa game at BMO Field a couple of weeks ago, and it looks like he's taken another head knock. He's talking to the referee. There may be a substitution. The Canadians tried with the turnover to move the ball, and I think that was an ill-advised pass by Connor Traynor. He's probably had eaten that up. The Canadians might have been able to recycle it. A bit of nerves right now. The Canadians just have to settle down, stick to their sets, stick to their game plan. And it looks like Ray Barkwell is going to be coming off, whether it be temporary or not. But looks like Piffero will be coming in at hooker.
So an early exit for Ray Barkwell. Whether he returns or not remains to be seen, but his place is taken by the Montreal native Benoit Piffero. Number 16, and as Brian says, goes straight into hooker and straight into action. As the scrummage forms.
This could be one of the gentlemen who's on the bubble, Mr. Piffero, because Aaron Carpenter can play hooker, Ray Barkwell can play hooker, presuming he's going to be fit after that knock. And I'm not so sure that Kieran Crowley's staff are going to take 3 hookers to the World Cup. So I'm sure he'll be wanting to have a big effort for the next hour.
Referee again not happy with the way the scrum was formed, so they'll go through their routines again. Right on halfway, Canada leading by 3, but it's a precarious lead, and the Americans have seen plenty of the Canadian territory in these opening minutes. And I guess if it is a sign of nerves, Brian, as far as the Canadians are concerned, they just need to settle down into their stride and do what they always do on the practice grounds. It's never quite the same when it's game day. But one move, one passage of play at a time. Hirayama out to that far side. Looking the run is Harry Jones, the fullback. Good yards gained by the Canadians. On to the American 22. Recycled drop goal attempt from Hirayama. It's good. Canada doubles its lead. Canada leads the US by 6 points to 0.
And during the Samoa game, Hirayama was kicking so well with both legs. I had a couple people ask me post-game, is he a righty or is he a lefty? He is a righty, and he strikes this one fluidly. Well done for the Canadians to take a 6-point lead, and that'll give them a little more confidence moving forward.
Nathan Hirayama, native of Vancouver, BC. The big hit comes in inside the Canadian 22. Can they come up with the ball here and clear the pressure? Hirayama again. Kick was partially charged down. Americans take over. Trying to move it quickly. Here's McGinty. Finds Brett Thompson. Thompson rides one challenge and then is pulled to the ground. Back they go. Al McFarland, the big Pac-Man. McGinty. Going right, from the Canadians coming in. That one came in from Taylor Paris, who's stayed down, or at least he's slow to rise. And suddenly there's a whole new intensity about this game. Dalla, and then kicked away. Now, which way will that bounce? Will it bounce into touch? It'll stay in play. And Wiles will pick it up inside his own 22 and kick for touch.
Nervous times for Kieran Crowley right now. Taylor Paris just back in the lineup, 20 minutes into his first run, and he's very pumped up and excited, and boom. I'm not sure if it's his shoulder or maybe his head in the tackle, but he's still down, and he's on the left wing getting treatment. Collecting himself. Very excited to be playing today.
Short line out from Piffero, picked up by McCrory. Hirayama Along the line they go. Carpenter playing as a temporary halfback. McCrory again, and Hirayama. How can they make that move deeper into American territory? This is more fluid stuff from the Canadians. Referee allows Canada to use it. Was there a knock on there? Referee will let him go for the time being, and then we'll blow his whistle.
I've mentioned already, and I'll say it again, the Canadians playing two open side flankers in Nanyak Della and John Moonlight, and obviously they're both very good sevens players. Canada want to spread the ball. They're running misses and getting the ball to the outside with space. And if Canada keeps spreading the ball, if they can win their scrummage and have a solid platform, I like their back line a lot. I like Hirayama as a facilitator setting up the plays, and I think this Canadian back line can do some damage today.
Well, we have that margin of 6 points. McCrory with the penalty, and then Hirayama with the drop goal. Taylor Paris, none the worse for that big hit a few moments ago. He's had the treatment, he's back in. Put in from Mike Petrie, the American scrum half. On their own 22, they choose to run it for the time being. Here comes the hit. Helped out there by Blevins. Down goes Palamo. McFarland trying to get out of their own half, the Americans, but good discipline defending by the Canadians. Just trying to keep them penned in for the time being. Down goes Fenolio. And AJ McGinty kicks, but straight into the arms of Harry Jones, the Canadian fullback. Down goes Jones. Here comes the cavalry. McCrory. That's Doug Wooldridge. There's better possession by the Canadians. Here's Taylor Paris back on his feet. Broke a couple of challenges there. Now they'll feed it wide. Hirayama. And out of play eventually.
I like that work by Harry Jones. He went into the previous Canada-US game at fullback. He can play number 10. But a month ago scored that wonderful try to win the Pan American gold for the Canadians. And I really think he's a player who thought he might be on the bubble, but I think based on his play, he's earned a ticket to the Rugby World Cup. And the fullback position is an interesting one, Nigel, because no James Pritchard. Matt Evans has played well, and it's a spot that they can move people in and out.
Polonio with the throw. Dolan again pulls it down. Now the Americans push, then they kick. Still in play. And Paris. Now, did they manage to keep it going backwards? Ball is still alive. And the referee has blown his whistle, and it will be a penalty for the Americans.
Yeah, what we have seen 24 minutes into the game is that Taylor Paris plays this game 100 miles an hour. He took that ball on, and the Canadians did spill it, but he wants to go forward every opportunity he gets. Takes the high ball, thinks about the pass, says, I'm going to go, takes a hit. The support was a bit slow, and the ball is spilled.
Into touch on the Canadian 22-meter line. And every now and then the Americans are sniffing about, looking to get themselves on the scoreboard. This time it's Greg Peterson again. Palamo, powerful player Palamo. Takes 2 or 3 Canadians to stop him. As the Americans inch closer to the Canadian try line, they might have one right here. McGinty pulled down just a couple of meters short. Now, can they get in for the opening try? Denied. But the Americans still have possession. They're only a couple of yards shy of that Canadian try line, right under the posts. Desperate defending here by the Canadians for the time being. They're holding the Americans just inches short of their own try line. The referee's whistle has gone.
The Americans should have put that ball out. They had space on the outside. He has awarded an American scrum. McGinty sliding through, cutting through. Looked like he might have been in. Canadian defense stiffened. And then the Canadians now have to regroup.
Well, did they get it over? Did they ground it? It appears that the Americans were held up. Well, certainly it appears that the small ball was on top of the big ball, as they say.
Well, it looked like a double movement, and the referees brought it back for the scrum, and we do not have a television match official today. And our referee, Mr. Barry from South Africa, cannot go upstairs. He's talking to the assistant official on the touch judge side, and it will be an American scrum. There's a real break for Canada. Ray Barkwell back in. Obviously took a knock. He did take a head knock and several staples to his head versus Samoa, but he's back in business, and he's really working hard to get over to that game in Cardiff on September 19th. That will be on TSN against Ireland. Can't wait for the Rugby World Cup to start, Nigel.
Tough as nails, Ray Barkwell. Had his head stapled together with, what, a dozen or more staples in that game against Samoa. He's already taken a big hit today, but it takes a lot bigger hit to keep Ray Barkwell off the field. And there he is, the beard and the shaved head of the Canadian hooker, and relishing the prospect of getting back in it. So, US 5 meters from the Canadian try line. Is this the breakthrough? Off the back, will he get over this time? Still the referee watching. Maybe it's their in this time. I believe they are. And it is Greg Peterson, I fancy, who's touched the ball down for the opening try of the game. And the US are within 1 point.
Off the American scrum, Nanyak Dalla, although he was a bit high, he did hold up the number 8, but the Americans would recycle it. The ball would come out, and the big man would have no problem crashing over. Canadian defense wasn't there. John Moonlight did his best. But the Americans are between the sticks, convert to come, and this will most likely make it 7-6 for the Americans.
AJ McGinty. Well, I'm not saying I could have kicked that one, but they don't come much easier than that. McGinty adds on the extras, and the United States, Brian, in front for the first time.
And this is an important few minutes for the Canadians to catch their breath, get back in the USN. They've done some positive things, as they did in the PNC, but they're committing too many turnovers, mistakes, drop balls, and the scrum has to tighten up a bit as well.
Well, if there was any doubt about whether that original ball was across the Canadian try line, doesn't matter now, because the US did manage to cross for the opening try of the game, and they lead the Canadians by 7 points to 6 on TSN. Beautiful Saturday afternoon, just about a half an hour's drive south of Ottawa in Nepean. That's Twin Elm Rugby Park. Canada in red, the navy blue jerseys of the Americans. Hirayama held up on halfway by Dolan. McCrory for Hodson. Harris inside, he's trying to connect, but the pass went to ground, and the Americans will take over again.
They tried to get McCrory on the burst, and he almost had him, and they turned it over. But once again, they're trying to be enterprising and spreading the ball.
Harry Jones in possession for Canada from the kick ahead by Petrie to halfway. Down in the heap goes Doug Wooldridge.
And it looks like the referees called Ray Barkwell ahead of Doug Wooldridge. shepherding the play ahead of the runner, and he's awarding a penalty to the U.S. I'm not so sure if McGinty's going to give this a crack or just put it down the corner.
No, he's going to kick. And as close to the corner as he can get, over the head of Taylor Paris and into those enthusiastic spectators.
Lindsay's Doug Wooldridge playing tight head prop today. He's coming off injury as well. A lot of the Canadian guys were carrying injuries as they're moving forward.
Canada has 5 penalties to the Americans, 2 so far. Blaine Scully, who we're just looking at there, getting some running repairs, the American winger. No permanent damage done. So Fernolio to throw for the line out. Midway inside the Canadian 22. Up again goes the try scorer, Peterson. Americans will have to come left. There's no room on the blind side. Palamo, big powerful man. And here come the Americans again, threatening the Canadian line, 7 or 8 meters out.
And I think you're going to see a yellow card here. The referee, Stuart Barry, not happy with Nanyak Dalla not rolling away from the ball. He had a conversation with Aaron Carpenter earlier. Yellow card. The Americans are probably going to kick the points here. But we saw in the PNC several yellow cards. Dalla makes the tackle, and he goes in from the wrong side. And that's the right call. Nanyak Dalla knows better than that. Canadians are going to play 14 on 15 for 10 minutes.
So Nanyak Dalla into the sin bin, and the Americans with an opportunity to extend the lead from just about in front of the posts. And McGinty should be no more than a formality. Rather like the conversion. This time the penalty is good, up and over. And the Americans lead by 4, Brian.
Well, and we commented in the Pacific Nations Cup how Canada did not take advantage of situations when they had 15 on 14 when their opposition had a yellow card. Several times their opponents would score 10 or 12 points with the extra man. Canada's going to have to stiffen up their defense, try and take this into the half as a close game and not allow the Americans anything else while they're playing with an advantage.
Just about 7 minutes to go until half-time, so the Canadians, having led by 6, now find themselves in arrears by 4. The try, the conversion, and now the successful penalty for the Americans, and they're on the charge again here with Dolan. Jones doing his best to hold them up. Hariyama, the kick ahead for the Canadians. Now, where will that bounce? Wiles watching it behind the in-goal line. And we'll just touch it down.
Weapons, scrum, down jockey, and our ball.
And I think if you think of the first half an hour or so of this game, Brian, the score that we have now is probably a more accurate reflection than when Canada was leading.
Yeah, the Americans have come back into the game and territorially have played in the Canadian end more. Like I said, I think Canada would be very happy to get out of this half down 4 points.
Drop out from McGinty. Here come the Canadians again. They need to put some meaningful possession together. Barkwell for Hirayama. Blevins held up. Took the big hits from the big number 5, Peterson, who's really caught the eye, Greg Peterson, hasn't he?
Yeah.
The try apart.
He's massive. He had a nice PNC tournament, and there was no way John Moonlight was going to stop him with the momentum he had on that try. But he's a massive body in the second row.
Scrum down, it'll be an American pudding. just inside the American half of the field. Referee will have them up again. Well, they talk about the art of scrummaging, Brian, and it seems to me that it often takes an age just to form a legal scrum these days.
Well, even at this level, it is about safety. But despite the size of these men, I'll use Japan as an example. They're a smaller pack, but they're very low and well drilled.
Here come the Americans again with Wiles. And they're going to go for the second score. And it was all done very quickly by this time by Drew Duratalo. And the Americans broke away from the scrum, and with pace and precision, they have crossed the American line for a second, the Canadian line for a second time.
They ran a simple loop with McGinty. The Canadian defense bit. Wiles was away, chipped through. I thought the ball might have, no, it was from the Canadian. The ball did not go forward. McCrory scooped the ball. The American collected it and popped it up. And that's the last thing the Canadians wanted to do before the half was give that up.
The American flanker, Drew Duratalo, crossing the Canadian line to increase the Americans' lead to 15 points to 6. And a chance for a couple more here from the boot of A.J. McGinty. A little wider this time. Just taking his time and composing himself, McGinty. Scored all the points in that dramatic victory over Canada 3 weeks ago, including that last gasp drop goal. This time it is good again from McGinty. And the Americans lead Canada by 11 points.
Well, and I think the Canadians mentally must be saying to themselves, here we go again. Are we going to let this get away from us, or are we going to turn this around? I think it's very important that the Canadians come back with a big effort, take this into the half, regroup, and come out hard in the second half. As I said off the top, Nigel, I think their mental psyche is a bit fragile right now. If they drop this one today, they will limp into Halifax with all the pressure on them against Glasgow.
Then 2 games to come in the United Kingdom before the big kickoff in the Rugby World Cup. You'll see it all on TSN. Canada's opening game against Ireland, who I think are the world number 2 as we speak. And some mishandling on halfway. Canadians pick it up. Referee lets them get on with it. Here's Blevins trying to bludgeon his way through, but the ball is on the ground again. McKenzie trying to protect it. Still in play, just a metre or so from the touchline. McCrory recycles it for Hodgson. McCrory again. Hirayama. Along the line they go. But again, another wayward pass. Canada penalty.
The American intercepted the pass. I'm not sure if he was offside or not, but he wouldn't release the ball because the Canadian pressure was there. So Canada has been awarded a penalty. There's about a minute and a half to go in the first half. They're going to pump it down the field, I'm sure.
Hirayama into touch. Final 60 seconds of the first half, which has largely been controlled by the Americans, reflected in that scoreline as they lead Canada on Canadian soil. Close to the capital by 17 points to 6. McCrory picks it up. Is there a response from Canada in these closing seconds? Something of a morale booster to take them into that half-time break. My goodness, they need it. They're on the American 22. Here's Hirayama. Feeds it out to Traynor. they've lost it again. And more handling errors are proving very costly for the Canadians.
Yeah, they're a frustrated lot right now. They just want to get to the halftime whistle and get in the room and collect themselves, reorganize, reset, come out hard in the second half. But the Canadians very, very frustrated with the amount of mistakes they're making.
So what's Kieran Crowley going to say to his troops in a few seconds' time? Because you say they want to get to the sanctuary of the dressing room, but I'm not sure how much paint there'll be left on the walls by the time Crowley's finished.
Well, I think he's going to tell them to calm down, stick to the plan. They're going to get back 15 on 15. They've got 40 minutes. They're not playing the New Zealand All Blacks. This game is still in there to snatch, but they have to cut down on the mistakes.
McFarland makes a couple of yards for the Americans. Petrie back to his captain. Wiles kicks, left-footed. Will find touch, will he? Does find touch. And referee blows his half-time whistle as Peterson, the try scorer, makes his way off. And the Americans in control, Brian.
They are, but the Canadians are not out of this game. They have to regroup. They have to cut down their mistakes, come out hard in the second half. They owe it to themselves, and they owe it to these great Ottawa fans.
That's half-time. We are ready for the start of the second half. The navy blue jerseys of the Americans with an 11-point lead at half-time, attacking immediately the Canadian 22, the red jerseys of Canada, without a win in 2015, and desperate to get that morale and that confidence and that self-belief going before they depart these shores, Brian.
Well, I think they're trying to do a little too much. They've got to just catch their breath, play to their plan, but that is a terrible start for the Canadians. Taylor Paris was isolated. He took that ball. He took a big hit. That's fine, but the support wasn't there, and Canada almost turned it over. They were very fortunate for the Americans to knock it on.
So scrummage deep inside Canadian territory. McCrory, who told us at half-times that nerves weren't a part of that first half performance. He said every man knows his job, knows what his responsibilities are, but it generally didn't work for the Canadians after that promising start in the first 10 minutes on their own 22. McCrory again. Hirayama kicks long, looking for touch, and finds it midway inside the American half of the field.
And I think the Canadians don't have to get this all back in the next few minutes. They're playing 15 aside now. Nanyak Dallas back on from his yellow card. I think what Canada wants to do is put together a few phases, win the first 10 minutes of the second half, get their composure, get their confidence back. They can beat this American team. This lead is not insurmountable.
Sure, just a shot there of Nanyak Dalla, who was sent to the sin bin for those closing minutes of the first half, but we're back 15 aside rugby now. It's the big figure of Al McFarland, big up and under right on halfway. Paris jumping, manages to collect it. Confident take from Paris, under pressure from Blaine Scully, the American winger. Now, can they get those hard yards going? Here is Moonlight.
And the referee, the assistant referee touch judge has his flag up. He didn't like that tackle on Taylor Paris. It was a high tackle. He will speak to the official at the next whistle.
In the meantime, the referee allowing play to go. Here is Nanyak Dalla again, using those strong legs to gain some hard yards for the Canadians. Carpenter inside for Hugh Bidens. The American backs looking to hold the Canadians at bay. And goes Seamus Kelly. McCrory quickly away. Hirayama again. Shimmies one way, goes left. Still Canadian ball. Dalla in possession. McCrory right. Being held up again by those tough, strong Americans. And eventually the whistle goes.
The Americans were offside, but as I alluded to a moment ago, the touch judge wants to have a word with the referee, and I think this is going to go back probably about a minute or two to the high ball Taylor Paris had and he was tackled by Blaine Scully while in the air, and it was a very high, dangerous tackle.
That's the tackle in the air. You never realistically catch it. You've got a responsible for that.
Now, what Canada has to do, he's been given a yellow card. That is the right call. What Canada has to do, which they didn't do in the PNC, is take advantage.
Have another look here.
He goes up for the high ball, which is fine, but he took him by the neck, which is not.
So it is the Americans who are shorthanded for the next 10 minutes with their winger Blaine Scully into the sin bin.
And I like this call, Nigel. Get 3 of them points back right now. McCrory's going to take a shot at goal, get 3 points back, get right back into this game, and you're still going to have the majority of the yellow card to use.
Shake of the head from Scully, but I don't think he can have any complaints about the referee's decision. Now, from what, 30 metres out or thereabouts, a chance for McCrory to reduce the arrears. Canada trailing at the half by 11. Successful kick here would take it into single digits. McCrory certainly sounded confident at half-time. Can he deliver with that strong right boot and give the Canadians a boost in these early minutes of the second half? It's a little left of the post, but Sharp, has it got the legs? It hasn't. Disappointing hit. McGinty from closer in earlier in the first half pushed it wide, and McCrory, unfortunately, from further out has done the same thing.
Got to make those kicks. You know, Canada was building up. They rewarded the yellow card. Got to make those kicks, and it becomes almost a mental thing now.
McGinty high into the air, collected by McCrory, Hirayama, Paris. And then it's the captain, Aaron Carpenter. Hirayama again. Looking for the fullback, Harry Jones, but it wasn't the greatest of passes. Now the Canadians making the hard. Here's John Moonlight inside the American 22. This is more promising from Canada, but the handling and the passing has to be swift and precise. Paris, did he get it? Was he taken around the neck there?
Looked like another high tackle. The referee has his arm out.
It certainly looked high from Palamo. Referee allows it to go for the time being. McCrory out to Hodson. Further wide, there's an overlap here if they can find it. Canada trying to cash in at the corner. They'll come left again. Better pressure this from the Canadians as the Americans try to hold them at bay midway inside their own 22. McCrory thought about going himself. Now Dalla for Paris, can he get in? Taylor Paris is in. It's the score they've been looking for. And Canada finally have a try of their own.
Try scored for Canada, and number 11, Taylor Paris.
It all started on the other side of the field, Brian.
Well, John Moonlight, captain of the Sevens team, he's off and running here, almost scored a few moments earlier. The support was there, but the Canadians would run several phases, very organized, very cool, good hands by the forwards, Barkwell, Dalla. Harris turns it back inside, slips in, and Canada's right back in business.
Canada within 6. Well, that's brought this stadium to life. And the majority of 5,000 Canadian fans have certainly found their voice. So 6 the difference. And if McCrory can slot this one over, the deficit will be down to 4.
And Kieran Crowley, when we had a word with him yesterday, was very critical of his team for not cashing in on yellow cards that were afforded them during the PNC. That's a good start to this one here.
McCrory, big kick this one. This is 7 or 8 meters closer than the one he pushed wide 3 or 4 minutes ago. This, I'm sure, will give him more focus. He was talking about that at half-time. McCrory, as he pushed it again, He has, you know. He'll be disappointed. Missed it by another 18 inches. But have another look at Taylor Paris's intervention.
Barrie, Ontario's Taylor Paris. He's in for his speed. He's in for his enterprise. He's in for his enthusiasm. And he's in the end zone right here with a great cutback. Touches down. Canada would not convert, but it is certainly game on now.
Well, if nothing else, it'll be a shot in the arm for the Canadians. The fact that they've actually managed to cross the American try line. Only managed one in that PNC defeat 3 weeks ago, which was that breakaway try late on from Nick Blevins. It's Taylor Paris back in the team after injury, proving his worth once again, Brian.
Yeah, his pace, his enterprise. He's quick on that wing, wants the ball all the time. And there's a bad turnover by the Canadians right there.
Cam Dolan. And then further wides to Duratalo, scored in the first half, but they run out of real estate themselves. And big cheers from the Canadian fans.
Well, the Canadians are trying to spread the ball. They've been doing so the entire game, all 50 minutes. They're trying to run with enterprise. They're trying to run with purpose. One thing Nathan Hirayama did against Samoa at BMO Field in the PNC was he chipped the ball over the defense. The Americans are up very tight. It might be something to try while the Americans are up tight. Chip the ball over. He's got runners in the centers. Blevins and Connor Traynor can collect the ball. That was very successful against the Samoans. Had them going backwards. I think he may try that.
Kieran Crowley and co, including his brother Leo, on board for the build-up to the World Cup and the tournament itself.
And the referee played advantage here for the Americans. There was no advantage. He's brought the ball back. McGinty's going to have a shot at goal. This all stems from a Canadian turnover. The ball was secured. Aaron Carpenter ran it into contact. The support was slow. The American tackler stepped over and collected the ball, which he has the right to do. And the Canadians, another unforced error. And the way McGinty is shooting them, they may pay the price here with 3 points.
This is probably as wide as McGinty has been out. He's, 4 or 5 meters in from the touchline. But certainly he's been aiming well. I think he's only missed one today, if memory serves me correct. From Dublin, but he's a fully fledged American now. And maybe a big part of their plans going forward to the 2015 Rugby World Cup. McGinty into boos around the stadium to try and put him off, as you might imagine. But McGinty, is he in the zone? Has he got the curl on it? He has, you know, it's right between the posts. Terrific kicking from McGinty.
I think the fans were just being impatient because he was taking so long, but he's allowed his time to set that up, and he really stroked that fluidly. That was never in doubt, and the Americans go up by 9.
McGinty, all 15 points against Canada last time. Already into double figures today. Nate Hirayama kicks off again for the Canadians. Barklow almost the beneficiary of the mishandle from Dolan. Hirayama again looking right this time for Jones, then Blevins. Further right for Connor Traynor. Canada will come left as they inch towards the American 22. Trailing by 9 again as a result of McGinty's latest penalty. But a try and a conversion would get them back within 2. And having already crossed once, they will certainly believe that they can do so again. Hard yards these from the Canadians onto the American 22. They'll come left with Hirayama, but it'll grab a kick through. Was there a halt-in play there on Blevins, who seemed to be held up? Blevins, was he obstructed? Referee allows play to go for the time being and cleared into touch by Wiles.
Well, I mentioned just a moment ago the idea of the grubber kick. I don't know if Nate Hirayama heard me, but he tried it, and it looked like it was on. And Blevins was trying to go through, and you be the judge. Well, he might have tried to sell it a bit. He gave him a bit of a shoulder. The referee was right there, and right from the get-go said no way.
Remember, we do not have a TV referee for this particular game, so the referee essentially gets one look, and he gives what he sees.
Was there contact? Yes, there was, Nigel. Did Blevins embellish it? Yes, he did. In the referee's eyes, it did not impede the play. If Blevins had tried to dart through, he probably still could have gone. He chose to potentially embellish the play and put himself out of collecting the ball. I think that's the interpretation the referee's going to use.
But as you mentioned there, that little grubber kick, a little bit of creativity from Canada, something we haven't really seen too much today, as we have a look at the US bench and their coach, Mike Tolkien, and his assistants.
And you may see some more creativity now because Phil Mack just came on for Gordon McCrory, and Phil Mack, he will be darting, he will be running.
Phil Mack wearing 21. So Mack goes into that scrum half position. Here is Mack, first touch, and he's all tied up by McGinty. And the referee has blown his whistle, I believe.
He's called a knock-on against the Americans in the tackle. I think Phil Mack was looking at the referee to maybe imply it was an intentional knock-on and try to get a penalty. But the Canadians have to secure their scrum. One thing Phil Mack will do at the number 9 position is keep defenses honest. He will keep them on their heels because he will dart through as opposed to passing to his number 10 partner in Nathan Hirayama.
And something I haven't seen for a couple of years, and last time I think I saw Canada, which was that last win over the Americans to qualify for the Rugby World Cup. I fancy that Mack was the scrum half that day, and a feature of his play is that when he receives it either from the lineouts or from the scrums, he's want to just let that little kick ahead, give it some air, and let those players chase it. We'll see, here's Taylor Paris again, who's already been over once for the Canadians. Keeps it in play. This is Mack. Hirayama for Blevins. Just about held on to by Moonlight. Canada on the fringes of the American 22. Here's Harry Jones. Jones on the charge to the American 22. Trainer. He's got Paris for support. Mack picks it up. And now Biden's going to burrow his way through those American defenders. Hirayama. Jones. Looking the little sidestep, the Canadian fullback. Mack's there again. Has the choice to go right or left this time. A little dummy from Mack, down he goes. And now Jones, down to ground. Threatening position. Good moments these for the Canadians, and they're over in the corner. Nick Blevins with the touchdown. Canada can breathe again. A second try, which will breathe new life into this game and into the Canadian psyche.
Nick Blevins has a nose for the goal line. That's his third try in the last 3 games. He scored against the Americans at Burnaby. He scored against the Samoans at BMO, and he would not be denied. The Canadians were pressing right. They held on to the ball, but Bevins crashes over again. And that's 3 in the last 3 games. In come the substitutions. We've already seen Olmsted come in for Phelan at second row, and Canada's right back in it. Big convert here.
Sears Giroux, the prop, and Andrew Tideman, the prop as well, both on. So fresh legs for Canada. Now, if they can pop this conversion over, they will be within 2. But he put it across the face of goal, he did. It's no good. Hirayama with the attempt.
Now that McCrory's off, Hirayama will take over the goal kicking duties as well. Canada's got to make some kicks here.
So for the deficit as we approach the hour mark. Twin Elm Park in Ottawa. Half an hour's drive from Parliament Hill. Up to collect is Aaron Carpenter. And the penalty is awarded to the Canadians.
Tyler Hodson took an American out who was going to contest the ball. The referee may give him a yellow card. He's definitely going to give him a talking to. He did not go up for the ball. He was essentially blocking the American, and he's just got a warning.
Just the lecture for obstruction. But the Americans will take over possession as you watch another look at this.
Just a quick word about the halftime presentation to Al Sharon. Obviously a great player, the all-time capped Canadian, 76 caps, 4 World Cups. He's an Ottawa lad. I was with Al last night. He has done so much for rugby post-playing career, and he was recognized today. Al Sharon, one of the true icons of Canadian rugby with Derek Reese.
That's why you didn't tell me who you went out to dinner with last night.
Well, taking Al out for dinner, you can't afford to take too many people out.
US on the Canada doorstep once again. 5 metres short of that Canadian try line. They'll try and push it over if they can. Fenolio trying to get there himself. Now will they spread it wide? It's out to John Quill, the American replacement. Still 5 metres short. Can those red shirts hold firm in these decisive moments as the Americans threaten another try? They've scored 2 already. Might go himself, McGinty. Still short. Canada being as disciplined as they can. Recycled again by the Americans. Is there a knock on there? Canada takes it over. Hariyama from inside his own 22. Huge cheers around the stadium. Chris Wiles on halfway for the Americans. Is pulled to the ground by Connor Traynor, who wouldn't let him go. McGinty on halfway. And you've got to fancy the Americans should have scored there and perhaps put this game to bed.
That was a big victory for Canada to hold them out.
Seamus Kelly. Petrie. Here they come again, going left. McGinty looking for touch. Straight in.
Straight into touch, so it'll come back. The Canadians will have decent field position and try and keep this moving along. A lot of hands on the hips in the blue shirts. Canada's made several substitutions. They look a bit fresher here, and this is an opportune time for them to strike, just getting into the 4th quarter of the game.
Yeah, that's a bad one. You get which one?
Just 4 points the difference. Americans led by 11 at the interval. And Canada have cut into that lead with that try by Nick Blevins. Unorthodox but effectful. Hariyama. Here they come again. Down goes Connor Traynor. Blevins in support. Bundles himself into American territory.
And he did drop the ball. The referee is right there. A little knock on by Nick Blevins. Great handwork. John Moonlight was under pressure in the lineout. He tapped the ball to Phil Mack. They are Sevens partners, and Mack basically swatted it like a volleyball to Nate Hariyama at 10.
Phil Thiel is on, as is number 23, the experienced centre Andrew Suniula for the Americans. So fresh legs on both teams.
He's moved into the centers, Nigel, with the emergence of Mr. McGinty at 10. He was a pretty crafty number 10 himself, but I would say moving forward into the Rugby World Cup, A.J. McGinty is their guy at 10.
Petrie, well, I was about to say Petrie with the put-in, but for the umpteenth time, the referee not happy with the scrum.
He's got some new players in there, Andrew Tiedemann, Justice Sears-Drew, and he's just trying to sort things out, make sure the game goes well for the last 20 minutes. Very exciting game. These Ottawa fans are loving it, soaking up the sunshine and hoping for a big Canadian comeback in the last 18 minutes.
Crowd of around 5,000, and they've sardined them in here. I'm looking around the stadium and I cannot see a spare seat anywhere. And they're trying to turn it. And listen to the cheers as Canada is awarded the penalty on halfway.
Phil Mack wanted to go fast there, and the American wouldn't let him get the ball. But that's a good sign by the Canadians. Justice Sears-Drew, big job at loose head prop. And tight head Tiedemann. Olmstead's in the second row now with Hodson. That's a better looking scrum.
Americans penalised for pulling the scrum down. Hariyama gains valuable yards for the Canadians. Let's have a look at these two second-half scores for Canada.
Yeah, the first one, Taylor Paris, he would cut inside and touchdown. The Canadians would not convert it. And the second one, a very attractive try again. Nick Levins, the scoring machine, crashes over, unconverted as well. There's 4 points in it now, 2016. About 15 minutes to go. Canadians have to strike soon.
Barkwill on the American 22. Threatening position. Carpenter trying to bulldoze his way through. Captain of his country. Now Dalla to 10 yards out. Pressure from the Canadians. The referee's whistle goes.
Now, I don't like this call at all. The Americans were impeding the play. Phil Mack raked one of the Americans because they were holding the ball, and the referee's going to warn, potentially give Phil Mack a yellow card for stamping. That's the wrong call. The Americans have to roll away. The Canadians were going forward. The Canadians had won the ball, and he's reversed the penalty because Phil Mack stamped on the player to get the ball out. Yellow card. I don't like the call at all.
Mack, have another look. Phil Mack,
the Americans impeding him.
Well, maybe there was the stamp right there. Referee's only got one pair of eyes. He's got to make a snap decision, Brian. As we've said, there is no television referee, and Phil Mack, the replacement scrum half, a rueful shake of the head. Whether or not it was intentional, only he could tell you.
Well, it was intentional because the American wasn't rolling away.
It's all getting pretty feisty out there. 66 minutes gone, 4 points the margin. Duratello for the Americans. Petrie for McGinty. The up and under, inviting the backs, and in quickly is Harry Jones for Canada. Hariyama finds Hodson to halfway. Hariyama looking to go himself. The break might be on here for Canada. They need to move it quickly. They need to move it accurately. Sears-Giroux. They'll find John Moonlight. We've seen his effectiveness as a runner, as a member of the Sevens team. It's what they train you to do. Sears-Giroux inching closer to that American 22. Is there a high foot there? The Americans take over, and Canada concede possession cheaply again, Brian.
Yeah, they spilled the ball there, and they're going to pay for it.
Kick ahead by Petrie. First there will be Taylor Paris, but he's deep inside his own 22 and might need some help here. Is he going to run it out himself? Runs into a wall of blue jerseys. Still inside his own 22, Paris. Canada need to get themselves out of their own end. Hariyama for Jones, who does just that. Kicks towards halfway, but it stays in play. And here come the navy blue jerseys of the Americans again. That's McGinty on the charge. Petrie. Waits for Suniola, and in for the try. is Andrew Suniola, and that might do it for the Americans. The Canadians didn't clear their lines when they had opportunities to do so. Turned the ball over again as Jones kicked for touch, and the replacement, Andrew Suniola, runs in another American try.
We mentioned he's a pretty class player, played a lot of number 10 for the Yanks. He's in the centers now, but that all was too easy. Even though they're 15 on 14, the defense broke down. He goes in with just a little shimmy move, untouched, and the heads are down for the Canadians.
I'm just looking out of your picture as you look at the replay and look at those bodies of the Canadians. Right down in front of me is Phil Mack, whose head was down between his knees as he watched Suniola run in for that try for the Americans. Nico Kruger, I beg your pardon, Kieran Hearn is going to make his entrance pretty soon, as is Matt Evans. So some reinforcements in the backs for Canada. Hearn 22, Evans 23. They'll come on after this kick, which presumably McGinty, well, I say presumably, should be meat and drink for the Irish-American. Maybe we can call him that. A Dubliner by birth, but an Eagle now. Up, and it's good from McGinty. And the Canadians fall further in arrears. 11 points once again. The margin by which the Americans lead Canada.
Yeah, Phil Mack's not feeling very good about himself.
But he is
a bit undisciplined, but I still think the referee could have made that call quicker. The American was impeding. Phil Mack was raking the ball out, stamped the American. He reversed the penalty. Mack's in the bin. The Americans score. This is going to be real tough for Canada now, Nigel.
27-16. Traynor and McKenzie have made way for those replacements I mentioned a moment ago. Kieran Hearn at centre, Matt Evans on as well for these final 10 minutes. But will it prove to be any sort of a difference maker? You wonder whether Canada can find a way back now, Brian.
Well, their scrum looked good with the changes they made. It's a Canada put-in based on the U.S. knock-on. Hirayama goes back to number 10. It's going to be 7 Canadians on 8 Americans. Dallah's going to put the ball in. If they can win this, the back line has a play on, but it's going to be difficult.
Still 4 more minutes in the sin bin for Phil Mack, as the Americans have the numerical advantage both in terms of the score and in terms of men on the field, 15 on 14. So Dallah playing scrum half for the Canadians for the time being. And another decision goes the way of the Americans.
Well, that's 8 forwards on 7. And Nanyak Della putting the ball in. There's only 7 Canadian men binding down. And the American weight, the American size was too much. They pushed the Canadians off the ball. They've been given the penalty. And McGinty, as per usual, will punish the Canadians for that.
So line out coming up. 5 or 6 yards outside the Canadian 22. Replacement hooker Phil Thiel will take it. Here's the man with the beard. Up they go again and protect it comfortably. Go the pack as they push their way forward, push their way up to the Canadian 22. And right now there seems no way of stopping the Americans, literally or metaphorically, Brian.
Yeah, and they've awarded another penalty, and I'm sure they'll just continue to pound away here, despite their 11-point lead. They're having a conversation now. Should they put it in the corner or go for the points? If I'm riding A.J. McGinty, I might take the points.
Pulling them all down, the infringement right on the Canadian 22. Now, will McGinty look to pad that lead? At the moment it stands at 11. 3 more points would make it 14.
2 converted tries.
And the Americans might be over the hill and far away.
For a moment there, I thought they were considering taking the scrum. But they will take the penalty, chip it down in the corner, and Canada under all sorts of pressure right now.
5 meters short. Line out. Field with the put-in again for the Americans, threatening that Canadian line yet again. Clean handling by the Americans. Can they push their way over that red whitewash? Good discipline defending. Going to help out is Seamus Kelly. Referee asking him to use it. They do now. Petrie will go himself, and Petrie is over for the score. And the US surely a lead that will be too many for the Canadians to counter. 32-16 as the American scrum half dives over.
Yeah, a little fake by Petrie, and it was just, once again, too easy. I don't care if you're playing 14 on 15. And the Americans feeling pretty good about themselves in our nation's capital right now. And I think what's coming up for Canada post-game in this week is probably everything Kieran Crowley has at his disposal from his coaching history. He's going to have to somehow try and sort this group out, along with his brother Leo Crowley and Neil Barnes, Gareth Reese, the management team, and they have to somehow come around and build towards the Glasgow game in Halifax next Saturday.
4 tries now for the Americans, and AJ McGinty from just outside the 22. 2 of those tries while they have had the power play, if you like, or the Canadians have been shorthanded with Mack sat in the sin bin. McGinty doesn't care about that. He'll try and add on a couple of extra points here. And right between the posts, not a problem for McGinty, who's well into double figures himself for this particular game. And the US stretch their lead to 18 points, Brian.
Yeah, and it's been too easy, Nigel. It's been too easy. Canada has had too many breakdowns. I don't care if they have been playing a man short. Some of these tries have been much too easy. A lot of work ahead for Canada this week.
Phil Mack is back on. Released from the sin bin for the Canadians. And Guile Gilmore is on the field as well as a replacement for Nanyak Dalla. So time to stretch their legs, but only 4 minutes remaining in this particular game. Towards the edge of the American 22. Maybe there is some consolation, but you get the feeling that even if Canada scores now, it would be no more than consolation, Brian.
Absolutely. They're not going to quit. They're going to try and punch one over, but I think this fragile group is going to become more fragile, and a lot of pressure on them. They cannot lose to a club team. They cannot lose to the Glasgow Warriors. But that being said, the Glasgow Warriors are a professional outfit, and Gregor Townsend's going to have his boys fired up to knock Canada off. All the pressure on Canada next Saturday in Halifax.
Penalty to the Canadians. Hariyama, not surprisingly, won't kick it because 3 points, frankly, at this point won't make much difference. So kicks for touch and finds the American 5-meter line.
On for him, number 20, Kyle Gilmore.
Benoit Piffero with the line out. But maybe there's just a little bit of consolation for the Canadians here. They take it cleanly. Now can they push their way over that American try line? Or will they run it right? They're going to try and push their way all the way over, encouraged by the crowd. Can they get it down? Referees keeping a clean eye on it. They do. Try for Canada.
Try score for Canada. Let's hear it for us.
Well, there's heart and soul. It's still beating, Brian.
Yeah, that's good work by Canada. As I said, the shoulders are down, the heads are down a wee bit, but to come back and punch that one over makes them feel a little bit better about themselves. All in all, though, this will be a very disappointing afternoon for Canada. This was a game they really wanted, they really needed, and they're going to come up short again.
Aaron Carpenter, the man to touch it beyond the try line, and a successful kick from Hariyama adds on the extras and reduces the deficit to 11 points. US 34, Canada 23. Just about 90 seconds remaining. Carpenter confirmed as the try scorer. He was last man up out of that heat. But as the captain of the team today, Carpenter won't take any joy, I guess, in scoring the try himself. It hasn't been a performance of authority from Canada.
No, and he had a good PNC. He played hooker and scored a brace of tries against Tonga. You know, he'll be happy with the try today, of course he will, but he'll be very gutted that he led this side out in the field and they've let one go again to the Americans. They really have to regroup.
Inside their own 22 again, Jones finds Paris. Not much room to operate. It's wrapped up by those blue jerseys of the United States, who seem set for a third straight win over the Canadians, and the second in the space of 3 weeks. Kieran Hearn. Maybe a break on here for the Canadians in these closing minutes.
Taylor Paris is off with an injury. That's not good news, and it looks like he's in a lot of pain based on the last hit he took.
Well, he had that big hit in the first half, didn't he, and came back on, apparently none the worse for it. But it's also worth remembering that this is his first game back for Canada, and they need him at the World Cup.
Yeah, they sure do, and it looks like it's not a head knock. It looks like it's a knee.
Yep.
And that's terrible news for Canada. That's serious. They have enough boys banged up as it is.
Among those not involved today, Tyler Ardron, you spoke to him at half-time. Cudmore, Bilzell is, we know, already out of the World Cup with a broken arm. Marshall, Sinclair, none of them involved in this game for Canada. And right now, Canada needs all the help it can get. Hariyama out of his own 22. Finds some help from Blevins. Final seconds. Carpenter leading by example again for Canada. That's the turnover. Presented it straight to Cam Dolan. And the American lock says, thanks very much. I'll just trot this one in. It's a fifth try for the Americans. And it is misery for Canada.
When you're desperate and you're trying to spread the ball and score points, as Canada have been, you open yourself up. That pass was telegraphed. He read it, and off he went. That was Tyler Hodson trying to play halfback, floated a pass out, and an easy try for the Americans.
So Dolan and Peterson both crossing for the Americans. Not usually their stock in trade, but when somebody hands you the ball and you're running in the opposite direction, there's no reason you should stop. McGinty has a chance to take the Americans into the 40s. And there is the very sorry sight of Taylor Paris being helped to a seat. And if we get any news on the likely severity or the whereabouts of that injury, we will pass it on to you, of course. In the meantime, AJ, Alan McGinty, like shelling peas, takes the Americans into the 40s, and the referee blows his final whistle, and a big, big, important win for the Americans.